I guess the first place to start is Neil Young.
Yeah.
When did you fall in love with Neil?
You know, I have an older sister, Lisa. She's 3 years older than me. So she was like my music teacher as a kid. When I first started listening to Kiss and Rush and Led Zeppelin, hard rock, but she was always one step ahead of me. So then when I was listening to crazy hardcore punk rock, she was really into Neil Young. So as a punk rocker, it wasn't really cool to listen to Neil Young. So I would kind of wait until she would go to sleep or wait until she would go to school, and I'd grab her records and listen to them. And, you know, one of the things that was kind of lacking in a lot of that hardcore punk rock that I was listening to was melody and craft, like songwriting. Not only is Neil a hero today because he's always walked it like he talked it, and he has the integrity and the history of like a real legend, you know. He's amazing. People call him the godfather of grunge because he's always played what people consider like really like feedbacky, grungy, loud rock. But sort of behind all that is a really brilliant songwriter. I love him to death. Plus, he's a great dude.
We have to talk about Tom Petty if we're talking about people that have kind of carved their own niche. There's no one quite like Tom Petty,
No.
and Damn the Torpedoes especially. Can you remember when that record first kind of came into your life?
Yeah. I don't remember how old I was, but I remember I just learned how to give a girl a hickey. And so...
Which is a love bite for those of you that
A
don't
love
know.
bite.
Yeah.
Is that what you call them over
That's what we
here?
call them.
Yeah. What were we talking about? Oh, Tom Petty.
Tom Petty.
So, you know, Tom Petty is like now an icon, and he represents a generation of American kids, you know. You hear the Byrds in his music, and you hear the Beatles in his music, and those first influences that made for that next generation of rock and roll. As like an American kid, like he was the guy that we all looked up to, and you want to be like Tom, because Tom's cool too. Like, he's never lost his cool. He's just like a scrappy kid. He was that kid who, you know, chewed tobacco and stole beers from the convenience store, and then played rock and roll and took over the world, you know.
Rick Springfield is someone who's very closely connected to the story of the studio.
Yeah, Rick Springfield, for years, no one would sign him. So someone told him about this studio out in the Valley, Sound City, where they were signing artists to production deals. And if you scored a hit, then he would like split it 50-50 with Sound City. And he was really the first one to pay off. He had a bunch of songs, and there was the house engineer producer, this guy Keith Olsen. Keith heard his demo of Jesse's Girl and thought, okay, let's record this. And it just became such a massively huge hit. And if you listen to that record, the Working Class Dog record, like if a band were to re-record it today, note for note, it would still be like, it'd be a huge record. It'd be enormously huge. Those songs are so fun and high energy and melodic and awesome. It's an awesome record. Honestly, if the Foo Fighters just re-recorded it note for note, people would be like, wow, that's a pretty good Foo Fighters record, you know?
Watching the documentary, what really struck me was how, for you, for Nevermind, the studio was a bit of a gift, somewhere that had got this incredible sound and heritage, but was kind of punky and cheap.
Yeah.
And it kind of gifted you the ability to make the record sound like that. But then you kind of helped save the studio by it being a success. And now you're kind of back, kind of helping bring it to people's attention again with what you're doing with this documentary. It's a kind of love affair. It's really sweet.
Well, you know, I think that what that studio represents or represented is important. You know, like Nirvana made sense at Sound City because we were kind of alike. We didn't need much. We just needed to be ourselves. And it's sort of the same with Sound City. You know, Sound City had that same board, mixing desk, recording console for 40 years. And they never upgraded and they never changed it because they didn't need to. It did what it did, and it had a vibe and it had a sound, and it was a one-of-a-kind board. Same with the room. The room was just linoleum tile and like perforated soundboard on the wall. wasn't fancy, but it didn't need to be because it just sounded so good. It was entirely real. So the artists that recorded there, they all sort of reflected that same vibe or idea. So when Nirvana went there to record, we just went there because it was cheap. We didn't know anything about it. We'd never been.
Exactly.
And we walked in and, we thought it was a dump when we saw it. We were it was sort of funny that we were coming to Los Angeles to make our big major label record, and we get there, we're like, oh my God. But it sounded so good. And I mean, we weren't used to state-of-the-art, wonderful new studios anyway. To me, it represents something really important and almost like a lesson for everyone, or everyone should realize that the most important thing is that you be yourself, Sound City never tried to be anything but Sound City. Nirvana never tried to be anything but Nirvana. And the same thing could be said for Tom Petty or Neil Young or a lot of the bands that recorded there. Fortunately, when Nevermind became popular, Sound City became popular again too. And I was very happy about that. Like, oh wow, now all of these people are appreciating it for the same reason that we did. Rage Against the Machine went there and made their record the same way. I mean, they went one step further and recorded it live.
The whole of that record live?
It's crazy. So
No
they spent
way.
the first 5 or 6 days trying to get a song or get a sound, and then they just invited all their friends in and put up monitors and recorded live. That record is a live record. People don't know that.
Wow.
They got half the record in the first night. And it's one of the most incredible albums of all time because it was done live in the big room at Sound City. That's what Sound City would do. So, I mean, to me, making the movie was mostly just to sort of pay tribute to that. Not just the board and the room and the building, but what it represents, because that is really important to me, that bands understand and appreciate that's how magic happens. If you would have put Rage Against the Machine in that state-of-the-art place down the street and plugged them into a computer with some modern-day producer, I guarantee you wouldn't get that same album. So fortunately, we got that album that we got because they went to Sound City.